Mama, and I cannot stress this enough, Mia.
No pressure.
And today we have the Super Mario Brothers movie. No, obviously not that one. We got some new stuff to work with here. So this is gonna be one of those films that is so insanely like out there, talked about, popular. It's like if I were to review a Marvel film or a Star Wars film or some other big AAA blockbuster. I'm not gonna have anything new to add to the conversation. So I'm not gonna dive too deep into this. I'm just gonna kind of talk about this for a moment and give my thoughts, give you what old MovieMan thought of it, and then we'll move on with our lives. And I don't recall how long ago it was, but there was like a Nintendo Direct, I think, or something, but they announced it. First they said they're making a movie, or that was being talked about, and then they said, here's the cast, and everybody's reaction was just hysterical laughter, a couple like, oh, cool, but mostly just like laughter, what, how the, who else are you putting in it? Like, it was, and I was kind of in the same boat. I was just like, oh, okay, it's the who's who of big names in the business. Basically, every single name in this, almost every single name, is a borderline household name. So forgive me if I don't go too much into anybody's filmography here. Then we found out the studio that was going to be putting this all together, and that was Illumination. I've not made it any secret of my lack of respect for this particular company. It's mean if I called them like dog water, like it's just like terrible, because they've made a good movie before. I really enjoy Despicable Me, sure, and then, you know, the rest of them, I hear that one of the two Scene movies ain't that bad. I associate Illumination with, you know, it looks pretty and they do good enough animation work, but I feel like they bring the medium of animation down a couple pegs by oftentimes implementing, I know there's kids movie, no, they should be family movies that kids and the family can enjoy. And if you just have your film chocked full of like juvenile humor, potty humor, slapstick comedy with some semblance of a plot there that just somehow works through and tries to give you some emotional moments, I mean, then you have Ghostbusters Answer the Call or whatever. And I normally don't go see their films. I love animation. I've gotten on my soapbox about it time and time again, but I don't often care to go out and support them and watch whatever Illumination puts out. This is a little bit different. Am I a huge Mario fanboy? No. Did I grow up with the franchise with Super Mario Worlds and the galaxies? I played how much Galaxy I played. Mario Kart, my personal favorite, all the Mario RPGs. You got fucking Superstar Saga, Partners in Time, Bowser's Inside Story, Luigi's Dream Team. Like that's Paper Mario. Hell, I definitely grew up with Mario, and it's what got me, you know, a lot into gaming. They were always fun, unique, they were fun to play. So naturally, me, along with the rest of the world, or the rest of the, I guess, the fans, the gamers, the Mario fans in general, were very anxious to see how this would turn out. So, two directors, although normally whenever I cover a movie that has two directors, they're typically like a directing duo that works on films together. This time, it's two directors that both kind of do similar but different stuff. Aaron Horvath, and the other director is a Michael Jelenic, or yeah, Jelenic. Both of these directors, by the way, very small directing filmography, but worth noting that they both have had a plethora of experience in like animation and just again kid shows that I grew up with. So funny enough, both of them have like directed Teen Titans cartoons, like the new stuff, Teen Titans Go, but they have years of experience with animation and cartoons in general. Out of all the roles and performances, the ones that stood out were my favorites. I mean, I'm on the bandwagon with this one, but I think Jack Black as Bowser was insanely perfect casting. I think it's great. Love the energy he brings both in the movie, but also like just out there in the public, talking to the kids, doing interviews on Good Morning America with a Bowser suit or whatever. Also, got a big soft spot for Charlie Day. I think he was a good choice for Luigi. It fits. I could see it when it was called in casting. does a good job in the movie. Now, I know what everybody's thinking, because as soon as everybody heard that Chris Pratt was doing Mario, they were up in arms that the original voice actor from Mario wasn't returning to it. And like, I was kind of upsetty spaghetti about it too. I have a love-hate relationship with Chris Pratt. I think he's brought some iconic characters to life, but as a person, I mean, look, I'm not like deeply religious or anything. Sometimes he has a weird agenda, but also sometimes just the way that he kind of, I don't know if he's misquoted or whatever, but like, I don't think I'm a fan of the guy outside of movies. It's like Tom Cruise, right? I respect what Tom Cruise does for cinema, stunts, and just film in general. Huge respect. Outside of all that, Tom Cruise, weird fucking dude. Then one of my friends I went to go see this with pointed this out. So Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. Like, here's the thing, yeah, the laugh comes into play a couple times. And like, I love Seth Rogen. And, you know, by the time that he had more than a few lines, I could see it. Seth Rogen is DK, sure. But at the same time, you can't help such an iconic voice that isn't played around with too much. I agree with my friend. It's hard not to just hear Seth. I literally had two ends of the spectrum in terms of opinions going into this. IGN, they gave it what, an 8 out of 10, which is pretty damn high, especially for IGN. Granted, you know, who puts what money in what pocket for some reviews sometimes, who is the reviewer will oftentimes make a big difference. And then I saw on Rotten Tomatoes, and I believe this is still the case, not so much are the cinema critics enjoying it. So I was like, well shit, I'm either gonna love it or hate it, I guess. I really enjoyed this. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be the first to admit, Illumination, when you look, you can still do it. You can still do it. Bravo. You know, is it because I like the movie? Because I like Mario? I think it's a bit of both. If you're a Mario fan, great. You're gonna recognize a lot of stuff. If you're a Nintendo fan, you have even more. I'm not an expert, but I know a fair amount about Nintendo and their properties and all that, case in point. Playfully chocked full of Easter eggs in every little corner. And I love how everything was implemented in this film. A lot of characters, primary, background, the references to Nintendo properties. Some of them were just, you know, there to be there, but some played a role in the narrative. That's the cool part, because this is like an action-adventure animated film, so all the items in Mario and Nintendo, they can be used in the film, and most of us know what they are, and it's cool to see those brought on screen, and they're like diegetic to the world, and they factor into the narrative and how our characters are getting by and fighting and surviving or enjoying life, stuff like that. I thought it was all implemented very well. It was everything from big old, like, you see that, to subtle nods where it's like, oh, the fans will get that. I don't think it bogs down the movie either. From what I heard from a friend of a friend of a person of a whoever, that one of the complaints about this film is that there's too much in the way of all that, too many. It's just a movie full of references. Yeah, there's references throughout all of it. It's a Mario film. You're going to be referencing the Mario franchise, but the movie doesn't just basically skirt by on nostalgia. All that just plays a role into the story. I think it's very well animated. I mean, again, it's Illumination. I think it's one of their best works, just in terms of just the effects and the different Mario and Nintendo worlds you go through, and the different power-ups and all that, the sprites, the animation, the characters, like, it all works. I think the actors all do their darndest to embody the characters. People were concerned Chris Pratt's accent was a little bit weird. I like how they're not like, you know, Mamma Mia, like the entire film. It's like that's the accent they were putting on for their like commercial in New York, but really they're just like a couple of New Yorkers. They're Italian, sure, but they're not like stereotypically Italian. It starts off like it's gonna sound ridiculous, but then it quickly is more humanized. I don't love Chris Pratt, but I think that he did a pretty damn good job, all things considered. Like, it's serviceable, passable. There were only a few moments where I heard his voice and I was like, oh, that's Chris. But whenever he was in it, you know, wow, like, sure, why not? I'll give it a pass. The only downsides that I have, yeah, Mario and DK, like, they're not perfect. Sometimes the film does have cheesy dialogue, and sometimes the jokes don't land. Most of the time, I was laughing. I was yucking it up. I was giddy and giggling at all the references and all the stuff in the games and different, like, universes brought forth on screen. I was giddy. It was fun. It was fun seeing all the stuff that I grew up with and still enjoy today brought forth into this animated film. And most of the lines, you know, there's some one-lines here and there, there's some jokes tossed in, there's a lot of comedy that works on a variety of different levels, but it doesn't always work. Like I said, sometimes the dialogue is a little bit cheesy, not quite, you know, as bad as what Illumination notoriously can put out, but Every now and then they kind of were like, oh, I'm like, all right, that was a line, that was okay, that was a joke, I guess. But again, I also recognize that comedy is subjective. Again, I don't have a whole lot more to add to the conversation. I went and saw it on IMAX. It's like an hour and a half too, so it's just a quick, fun hour and a half animated romp. A big concern of mine that I thought about on the way out, I was like, with any adaptation, I gotta wonder, like, okay, so is this good because I like Mario and Nintendo, or is it, or would it work as a movie without people knowing about it? But here's the thing, with a Mario movie, everybody knows who Mario is. And there's some actors out there, you know, that I think are household names, that some people would have no clue who I'm talking about. But Mario kind of transcends culture in a way. I've met somebody who hasn't been to a Starbucks, right? But I've never met anybody who didn't know who Mario was. I don't think that I can really say would this film work if it wasn't Mario, because it's a universal thing, right? It's like everybody knows what it is. You might not know all the items and the abilities and power-ups, but hell, even my dad, who knows about like 10 films and almost nothing about video games, even he would be able to like sit there with his morning coffee and be like, oh yeah, that's Mario, right? And even if they don't know all the different properties and games and items and all that, it's easy to pick up. It's all Nintendo's always very visual and mechanical with how it all works. Once again, proving, in my opinion, that you can adapt video game properties into successful films that aren't just complete trash. We've seen it now more than once this year. I don't think it's perfect. I didn't like absolutely love it, but I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would, and I'm glad that I went in with a clean palette, giving it a chance. I had the blinders on of like, oh, Illumination, oh, Chris Pratt, weird casting and all this, and I just realized like, look, it's such a big thing, like they know what they're doing. So it's like, put the blinders aside, go into it and try to enjoy it. End of the day, I would gladly give the Super Mario Brothers movie, the 2023 Illumination animated one, a high 4 out of 5. I give it a high 4 out of 5. Might I come to regret that rating at some point in the future? Possibly. I know a lot of critics out there will disagree. I'm sure a lot of die-hard Nintendo fans will definitely disagree, but that's where I'm at on this. In terms of a film as itself, I think it accomplishes exactly what it set out to do. That's usually one of my 2 parameters. And the other one is like, did I have fun with it? And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Good job, brava. I'm here for an entire series of films should the opportunity arise. I had fun with it. I'm down to have fun with more. But that's all I gotta say about the Super Mario Brothers movie. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. And good night, everybody.